Hi everyone, and welcome to another video of Terraform. Today we'll be going through Terraform element function, right? How can we use the element function in Terraform? Let me go ahead and click on this icon here, and it's going to take me to my GitHub repository, right? And I will also make sure that I put the link of this GitHub repository in the description of this video, so that if you want to go ahead and follow the same thing that I will be doing here, you are more than welcome to do so. Let me go ahead. I've checked out this repository already and I have it local. I will just navigate to this specific path and I'm going to open this in VS Code so that we can see what is going on here. Let me open my terminal here and I will try to move where I have the code. My code here, it is in this specific path in my local. And if you type ls here, this is the root of the repository. And I'm going to cd here and kind of open this thing in VS Code. This is what we're seeing on the browser. Let me type code here to open this code. And I'm going to open this in VS Code. Now, let us start with this little example here and see how we can use the element function in Terraform. Let's say we basically have, here we have our Terraform block, the provider block, and here I have a variable called availability zone in Terraform. We usually call this AZ. That means we have US is 1A, US is 1B, and US is 1C. And here we have some instance type that we want to deploy, like the T2 micro, the T2 small, and the medium. And also I define another variable here called subnet ID. We also have 3 subnet ID per availability zone, per AZ, right? And here we kind of want to create an instance and we want to use the element function to get in here and grab some value. The AMI, basically hard code and AMI here, we can use the data source to grab this thing dynamically if we want. And here, the instance type here, I want to kind of go through this value here and get something, but based on the element function and not the list. Because if we are using a list, we can say var.instance types and we say 0 is going to take this one. If we say 1, we are taking this one. If you see 2, we are taking this one based on the index position, right? But if you want to use the element function, what would be the syntax? That is why you start with element and you say var.instance type, comma. What do you want to take? If you take 1 here, that means it is going to grab the T2 small, because this is an index position 0, this is an index position 1, and this is an index position 2. Now, let's see. I want also the VPC security group that was just hard-coded. I get this thing from my default VPC. And what is the subnet ID? The subnet ID also, I'm using the element function to get the subnet ID. And I am saying here var.subnet ID, and I want index position 0. That means it will be using this particular subnet ID, and all these subnet ID are part of my default subnet that I basically get this thing from AWS. And you can also, this is a list, you can put everything just like this. And that is kind of cool. I will just go ahead and override that. Right? This is kind of cool. This is how I like to define this. Now, all these subnet ID are in this region. I basically go ahead there and get 3 subnet ID and I punch those here. Now, how am I going to get one here using the element function? This is the syntax, and I'm getting the first element in the list. In which availability zone am I going to deploy this instance? I am using the element function and I want to get the first availability zone here, right? You can also use the var.availability zones, and you put this. If you want to write this thing in terms of a list, this will be the syntax. You say var.availability zones and you get the first element in the list. If you want the second element in the list, that is number 1. right? But if you want to use the element function, it change. And that is what we are going to have here. And we define the root device and this. Let us go ahead here and kind of initialize this and see if the instance type, if all this, the region will be US is 1, and also the ID should be this, and the instance type to be T2 small. Let me save. I'm going to save that. Let me go ahead here, click on this file. I will save it, override that. Let me go ahead and open my terminal and let me see the example again. That's element with list, ls. I'm going to cd here into element with list, element with list, ls, and I will type Terraform init. Oh, oops, I didn't type Terraform init. Oops, Terraform init, and after that we'll type Terraform plan and see exactly what Terraform is trying to do. Let's hold on a little bit. Now, Terraform plan. And if you scroll up and trying to check the size of the instance, as you guys can see here, this is T2 small. Let me go to the code here and say, okay, I want the first element in the list as instance type. That means 0. And go ahead here and type Terraform plan and check that size again one more time. As you guys can see here, T2 micro. And if we check maybe the region, as you guys can see, it's trying to deploy in US is 1. And if you're also even modify, if you modify it again one more time, maybe and say, hey, the availability zone, the easy, I want this to be 2, which means it will be using the C, availability zone C. If you plan this, as you guys can see here, if we check the AZ here, it is going to deploy in US is 1C, right? I'm not going to deploy that. You can go ahead and do that on your own. Okay, let's just check another example, which is the element function with the element function with map of string, right? How are we going to access value here using the element function? This is still, we have our Terraform provider, and here we have a variable. We define a variable which is just a map of string, and here we have a provider. How are we going to access all this using the element function? As you guys can see here, the region, this one here, it is just a string. It is not a list, which means if we want to count this, this will be like index. Everything here will be index position 0, index position 0, and so on. Now, if you want the region, that is element of var.vm, and here, what do we want? We want the region, and what will be the index? It will be 0, right? Because it's just, we don't have any list here. We don't have anything that follow. And that is why you guys will see 0, 0, 0, 0 everywhere. And the same way that I get the region is the same way that I'm going to get the instance type, the same way that I'm going to get the key name, the VPC security group ID, and so on. And if you check this, another example, as you guys can see, we have a map of list and also string. And here, this is what a list. All these things here are lists. And that is where we use the index position element of var.vm. We want the region. If you see here, the region here, what index? Index position 0. And if we are going to AMI, we can go ahead here and check the AMIs here. We define also the AMI to be a list, and we want index position 0 again. Let us go ahead now and check the instance type. Instance type here, it is in terms of list. And as you guys can see here, what do we have? This is the first element in the list, the second element in the list, and this is the first element in the list, the second and the third. And this one, it is an index position 0. That means if we are putting 2 here, I mean, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. We want to use a T2 medium. Also, the VPC security group ID, it is a list. And that is where we want to get the second element in the list because the first element in the list is 0. And the same thing apply, right? As you guys can see, if you're using the element function and you use a map of string, make sure that everything here, it is 0, 0, 0, 0. Let us go ahead and see if we can run a plan on this one, which is like a little bit more difficult, and see if we can go ahead and deploy. All these values here, I basically grab it from my AWS account. That means I have this key already created. I have a security group or a VPC security group, two VPC security group that I just grab the ID and punch it in here. And here I have a hard code, the AMI here, the VPC subnet ID. Make sure that you change all this information accordingly, because this information are based on my account and where I am going to deploy. If you want to follow the same thing, you should change this information accordingly and make sure that those exist also in your account. And let me go ahead and open this one in new integrated terminal here. And I'll go ahead and run Terraform init. Terraform init. And I will plan when this is done. Now, fail to initialize the provider. And we have here HashiCorp version matching this error installing this provider. Let me go ahead and sometime this Windows stuff, I don't like to do some stuff here. Let me see here, cd ls. I'm going to move into this element function with a map of string. And I will go ahead here and type Terraform init and see what is going to happen here. It was successful. I will go ahead here and type Terraform plan. Sometimes Windows behave a little bit funny, and if you have this issue, you can kind of launch a Linux instance and you type Terraform init on that, and that's something that I've noticed already. I can go ahead and type Terraform apply and see if this will go ahead and create this EC2 instance in AWS using the element function. As you can see, it is going through. And if you are open the console and refresh, as you guys can see there, we have one EC2 instance that is coming up, right? One EC2 instance here is coming up. And when that is done, I will go ahead and destroy that. That means you have a choice though. When you define something to be a list, you can either use a lookup function, or you can just use you can just access a list as usual, or you can use an element function to access that. That is up to you, right? Because somebody will choose to use a lookup function, another person will choose to use element function to access the list, another person will choose to stay with the list and just use the index position to access that, right? It's just some fancy stuff that folks would like to use in Terraform. Let me go ahead here and type Terraform destroy. Terraform destroy, and it will go ahead and do the cleanup. Always make sure that you clean up at the end as you are just learning, right? So that you will not be charged. Please, if you like this video, let me know in the comment below. And also, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so that when we publish a new video, you will be aware of, you will be notified. And also, please go ahead and follow up and just follow us on social media, such as YouTube, such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. Thank you. Bye-bye.